On this week's episode, we have Dustin Jackson on. Dustin is the owner and founder of EZN Detail and Storage down in Saraland, Alabama. He is the current owner of IGL Coatings and the founder of Detail Bookie. Dustin actually owns a lot of other businesses, but that's kind of what we focus on in this week's episode, mostly on his detailing company. We talk a little bit about IGL and what that process of acquiring that and overseeing a business the size of IGL, what that looks like for him. But most of this week's episode is focusing on branding and advertising and running his team at EZN. Dustin has over 56 total employees across all businesses, 14 of which are just focused on EZN. So he has a lot of experience with managing a team. There's a lot of really good information in this week's episode. Hope you guys can find some kind of value from it. Don't forget, you can use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, today I've got on Dustin, owner of EZN Detail and Storage. First thing I want to ask you actually is about that second part of your name, because I know that on your Google page, you guys are EZN Detail and Storage.
Yep.
And so you guys also offer storage, it looks like specifically for boats, right?
Yeah. So we are a 6.5 acre storage facility where we have covered and uncovered storage, boats, campers, big equipment, things like that, where you can bring your stuff in. And the original business model about 12 years ago was more like this VIP storage, where we would store your stuff, but we'd also pull it out and clean it up for you. We'd maybe go get fuel in the boat for you or load the cooler. And so years ago, it was just a little small lot, and that was the business model. And it quickly grew. The detailing side quickly outgrew that to where people were like, "I don't need a store, but I want you to keep my stuff clean." And I was like, "Cool, no problem." And so then the detailing kind of outgrew the storage, and then we outgrew that storage lot and grew to this big facility that we're in now. And then we actually have more other storage facilities, but just this detailing operation.
So did you guys just start with boats?
Yeah, we were probably 80% marine. I grew up, I just probably like most other detailers. I was keeping my own stuff detailed, clean. I'd polished my stuff, I just kept it up, and it started as a hobby. When I opened up the storage business, I had my stuff stored there. It was just in a field that I owned. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'll offer this service. And it just kind of grew past that. But there was no other marine detailers in the area. So, of course, I was the only one doing boats. So that's what we got was boats. And then we were probably 80 to 90% marine for years. And then eventually automotive caught up with that. Now we're 50-50 on number of vehicles. Marine still makes up about 70% of our income, our sales on the detail side, our coating side. But yeah, we're about 50-50 on number of units.
Okay, so 50 on units, but 70% comes from your sales comes from boats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bigger jobs. You have coatings that are $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 versus a $1,500, $2,000 car, coating.
Yeah, so is a lot of that 70% of your sales coming from coating jobs?
Oh yeah, the large percentage of that. I mean, we offer detailing and corrective work. So in boats, heavy oxidation. We cut our teeth sanding and polishing, but we've kind of outgrown that. We don't even really like to do boats of age anymore, just because they pop right back. The oxidation comes back faster. So we'll do them. Needless to say, I got one in my shop right now that we've been sanding on for 3 days. But yeah, it makes up a very small percentage of our business. Most of it comes from coatings and boats that are 3 to 4 years old or newer.
Okay. It was actually one of my questions I wanted to ask you was about ceramic coating boats, because there's a guy here in down in Table Rock, which is like kind of like the big lake in Missouri, and he does boat detailing, and he had told us that a few of his clients had a ceramic coating applied to their boat, and he had said that 3 to 5 years later, it seemed like it was almost flaking or peeling or something to that extent, which obviously PPF peels, but ceramic shouldn't peel. So
Yeah.
what do you think it was that he was referring to?
Yeah, probably not a coating. Most likely it was like floor sealer. A lot of people got in a habit of putting Zep, or is it Zep? I think Zepro or something, a floor sealer, and they would roll it on, and it would it would peel and yellow. And that was like the quick fix. People would take, I mean, I can't tell you how many boats we've sanded that off of. And they would take and roll that on boats. It would look shiny and new, and you didn't even have to polish it. Or Polyglow. Polyglow was a really well-known sealer that people used to put on boats that would peel and yellow. Ceramic coating it's not thick enough to peel. You know what I mean? It doesn't build, the film build is not there enough to peel or crack per se. You know, essentially what would happen is the coating would just wear off, and you just wouldn't see the properties of the coating. You wouldn't have the protection there. You wouldn't have the beading there, but you wouldn't have any remnants either. You can't really tell the thickness level of that. It's in the microns.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I don't know
Yeah.
what he was referring to whenever he was saying that. I mean, he was a well-experienced detailer too, and he's been detailing boats for 20 years. So I wasn't really
Yeah.
understanding what he was saying.
Most likely a different product called Polyglow. That's 99% of the time anybody's referring to products that are put on boats that are pilling is Polyglow.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. And you had said that ceramic coatings usually run like $6,000 to $7,000 up to on boats. Is that kind of your typical price range?
Oh man, it's by the foot. So we will have boats that come in that are 18 foot, that may be 2 or 3 grand, and then we have boats that are come in at a 45-foot catamaran or a 50-foot catamaran that's 12 to 15,000. It really depends on the size. Obviously, size is a contributing factor to price, and so small boats are priced accordingly. So I mean, your average detail, our sweet spots, your 24-foot center console, and those typically run 4 to 5 grand. So,
Okay. Now, how does the process of coating differ, and also the correction work prior to coating versus a car?
oh yeah, so it's a love or hate kind of thing. You either love marine detailing or you hate it, and there's really no middle of the road. Our automotive guys stay on automobiles, and boats stay on boats, and you don't ever see them swap. But the correction process is more of a process. The gel coat's harder. In most cases, it's thicker, so you can get more aggressive with it. You tend to refer to or defer to sanding versus like heavy polishing, where in a car you might defer to polishing over sanding because you're working with less material. But corrective, I mean, it's just that you just use a little bit more aggressive materials. You go after it a little bit harder, and they're bigger jobs, bigger surface area. So the saying is like, when you're correcting a big boat, you don't look down. You just stay right in front of you, because if you look this way, it's like being scared of heights. You don't look down. Well, on boats, you don't look down. You don't look down the boat, because you're like, holy shit, I got to do all this. And so that's a piece of it. And then it's just having the right equipment, bigger equipment. Usually your rotary polishers, your buffers are on your boats, and then there's no carpet to deal with though. There's no, typically speaking, no carpet. On some bass boats you might have some, but no, it's in my mind it's an easier detail because once you're done with the corrective works, you spray it out, wipe it down, panel wipe it, and lay the coating on there. You don't have to deal with all the trimming and stuff like that.
Okay. Um, but you had said originally that you weren't doing much sanding work anymore. So
No.
is most of it just rotary work?
Most of it's DA. If it's usually if it's 3 to 4 years or newer, you're not having to sand or rotary at all. I mean, you put it on DA on a decently coarse pad and run it, or a forced rotation, and just knock it down. You're not trying to remove oxidation. You're just trying to crisp it up, enough to lay the coating on it. If you can keep the oxidation, once the gel coat starts to oxidize, the sanding and heavy polishing is going to have to be done. But it's trying to stay in front of that. Try to get these boats where they're new, get them coated, get protection on in there, keep it on there. Once you crack that first layer of gel coat, once you start to sand on a boat, the most outer layer of gel coat on a boat, the most outer layer is the best version of the gel coat. It's the hardest. It's the most dense. Once you start to sand into gel coat, it opens up. It's porous, right? And so you can't load up the protection. Once you sand and polish one, you got to try to get it all protected, but it's more subjected to oxidize faster because of that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, walk me back a little bit. I know you had said 12 years ago. Is that when you guys started your detailing business?
Yeah. I started myself owner operator under a carport, a little 1 acre lot, half acre lot actually. Um, just detailing for friends and family, myself, and then the storage yard. And then it kind of quickly grew to, well, we have over 50 employees now, but over multiple businesses here. But yeah, I started just like most other detailers, except the difference in me is I'm a serial entrepreneur in the sense that I started my own business when I was well, I had my first business license at 14, and I've never worked for anyone since. And so, like when I think about entrepreneurship, it's like it's not an option for me. It's how I wake up. And so when I went into the detailing and storage business, it was not to be the best detailer in the world. It was to run the best detailing business. And so I knew as I was learning, I was building process, and I was, building procedures that I could pass on to the next person, and perfecting the business side of it, understanding cost, and looking always to drive my costs down, and and running it as a business should do. Thinking about customer communication, and I ended up years later building a software company. You may know it, Detail Bookie. That's my software company. I built that software to manage this detailing operation. It just grew past the point of I could organize it and manage it on pen and paper.
Well, that's why I had you on this podcast, was because I think that, at least for me, the business side of things is more of my interest, and
Yeah,
and detailing is more just kind of the way that we do business. But
it's the channel.
exactly. And you have a few other businesses. I know you have EZN Outfitters, and you said you have the Detail Bookie. Do you still own the Detail Bookie software?
Yeah. I still own and operate Detail Bookie. I actually own IGL Coatings USA with my partner. So we're a national distribution company. IGL bought that or Mike and I bought it from Joel and Jeff in April. I own a marketing company, and then a few other company, a boat show. We own an events planning company where we do boat shows. So have a few irons in the fire. But it all, I mean, like, so this wave of business started off of that carport where I was detailing under. Like this, the last 14 years, I guess, 13 to 14 years have been all, it all started from that move under carport detailing.
Hmm. So when did you guys start introducing automotive detailing more?
More happened. It took us a few years to outgrow our reputation in the marine side. Like we were known for like if you know how people drop in a Facebook comment and said, "Hey, anybody can anybody detail this car?" Right? We'd be like, "EZN can do your boat." They would never like put us in there. We would do cars, and we didn't mind doing them. We just weren't known for it. Our reputation kind of superseded ourselves. Like it was like, oh, they're just boat detailers because that's what they're great at. And so it took us years of constant marketing. I mean, I remember the definitive split when I made a car crew, and it was like, are we ever going to have enough cars to maintain a crew to just do cars? Like that was wild to me. Like, man, we have a 2-person crew over here just doing cars all day. Like and that was probably 4 years in. I mean, that's how long it took to outgrow that stigma of just boat detailing. And again, now we would be backed up for months on boats. Like we would be slammed, and then the car would show up like, oh man, we got to pull off this, this big job to do this little whatever. 1500 Chevy, like, and you could put 5 of those trucks in this boat that were detailed right beside of it. But and
Yeah.
we were mobile for years. I had 2 transits that went out and did 50-foot and larger vessels. So we were in the yacht detailing game. I mean, we spent weeks on boats coating them. We've done it all. I got tired of my guys living on the road. I got tired of managing weather and quality out on the road. And I remember that definitive choice to come off the road. Can we afford to come off the road? Can we afford to bring everything back in shop? So we've gone through and grown through all of those business transitions.
Yeah. Yeah, you just mean with like higher expenses, like coming off the road, coming into a shop, it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, well, can we stay consistent? So at the time, like, yeah, I think it's cheaper to detail in my shop, because you're not getting that, like all your tools and equipment and products are here, right? Out on the road, if you need something, well, now you're going to, we're at West Marine or O'Reilly's or something and paying 5 times more than you would if we ordered it. And then you're going to stop doing your job. So if you're on the road and you run out of product or run out of tools or need something, you got to go pay top dollar for it. Then you got the cost of travel, and then you got the cost of weather delaying projects, backing you up. But the concern was not as much cost savings as it was consistency. When you are a in-house detailer versus mobile, you have created friction in the buyer's process. So we're asking you to pull your boat out of the water, put it on a trailer, bring it to us, leave it here for an indeterminate amount of time. At that time, now we have a process that eliminates some of that. But and now we're asking you to bring that stuff to us, let us detail it, and then come get it and pick it up. So we've introduced friction. And so can we remain consistent in scheduling detail and selling detail if we're asking them all to come to us in our perfectly weathered shop, where we're not dodging the rain? And so it was it's like anybody else in business. You concern yourself like, okay, is this the right move? Am I doing the right thing? And again, you look back and that was years ago, and I wouldn't even question it. Now, if we have a mobile job that we have to go do, and there's about probably 5 a year that we just, customers are too big, like you can't tell them no, like it's just too important. And we go do it, and I cuss every time. I'm like, God, man, I can't believe the guys are going on the road. Like, it feels weird to miss 3 or 4 people in the shop while they're out on the road.
Yeah. So I guess you found out fairly quickly, obviously, because of where you guys are today, that people will bring the cars and boats to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. It's you figure things out. You figure out ways that maybe you go pick up their boat, or you help them out, give them a ride home, give them a ride back to work. We used to have a loaner car that we used. But yeah, people will bring their stuff. I mean, if they know that the quality's there and the value's there, they're willing to inconvenience themselves for a short period of time. And then you work with them on after hours drop off and pick up. You got to get creative to help yourself. But yeah, people are willing to bring their stuff.
I think one thing we've struggled with since hopping more over to a shop, because
Mm-hmm.
we moved into a shop a year and a half ago, and
Congratulations. Yeah.
up until then it was just mobile,
Mm-hmm.
and we were surprised by the number of people that when booking online, we'd give them the option to book mobile and shop, and they would pick shop.
Pick your shop. Yeah.
And I think it was the experience was for a lot of people. I think
It,
a lot
it
of people
is.
might assume also that you do better quality work being at the shop.
That's it. That's it. I mean, we control the weather, and it's when you come to our shop, that it's going to be handled professionally. When it's mobile and you're sitting out there and you're out in the parking lot and it's either 110 degrees or it's flooding and rain, and like you're dealing with the elements, and there's a certain aspect of that that's not going to provide the same quality as it is if you pull in our building and it's pristine and all of our stuff's organized, and you come in into a clean place and you can deliver clean product.
Yeah. That said, I do know that there's a lot of mobile detailers that are wanting to stick with mobile and scaling that route. And I think that's totally fine too, because there's a market for that.
Oh, there's a huge market. There's a huge market for it, and I think that that's here to stay. And I, there I fought the urge to put units back on the road, just because the demand is there. We get calls every day. Well, we would use you, but and I'm like, golly, man, I hate to turn that work down, but at the end of the day, what serves us best, and what serves us best is knowing where our people are, having them, within our 4 walls per se, and then understanding, the quality. We have quality control here, that checks everything before any customer ever sees it, and so that's important to us, and that's not really feasible out on the road. So you definitely have a clear, distinct lines, two different business models. Both are, just as effective and can be just as profitable as which one or both do you want to chase. And like I said, I chased both for years, and did a fairly good job at it. It's just like it's tough on the road. You gotta love being out there.
At some point, you have to pick. I think with everything in life, right? You got to pick something, at least until you become
Yeah.
good enough at it. And maybe this is the spot that you are in. And I'd like to get your opinion on this. But when you start going over into other businesses, like whenever you started the Detail Bookie or
Yep.
IGL Coatings, you obviously have to have somewhat of a system and process built up with your core business so that it runs itself. But
Yep.
when did you know that you were going to be able to do that and not stretch yourself too thin?
That I don't know. Hey, Chris. I don't know if it's ever if it's ever definitive, right? So, you start these things off, like, let's just say Detail Bookie. I built the software for just this company. I realized how well it worked for my business, and then decided to take it to market. Right. Well, that's a small company in infancy. It's you got a developer, you got myself as working the sales side of things, and maybe one other person. And so you don't start with 50, and you don't, so unless you buy another company. So really, when you start out, when you're fresh starting, like, to segment off, yes, you got to have your operation in place, and the best thing to do is kind of have processes when things happen. It's normal business can go on without you. It's when there's a little hiccup. It's when there's a unruly customer, or a situation that comes up, is how does your team going to handle that without you and without dropping the ball? And so having those things ironed out and having a team that is confident in making decisions on their own, that's where you start. And then you go chase that other thing, but it usually starts as humble beginnings. And so, it's not like I have now teams of multiple to manage, but back then it was, okay, this team's running, and now I'm going to go work this other thing, and there's 2 or 3 people here, and we're going to build it, and we're going to grow it, and once it grows up past that, then I can let it kind of run itself. And that's how I've done things my whole life. I kind of like to solve the hard part and get it to a point where it can run itself, and then kind of, I don't want to say let it go, but maybe, like, let it continue down that path. And I put people in place that really like consistency and to keep the engine turning. And of course, we challenge every day to be creative and to grow and to learn. But I love to solve the hard part. I love to solve the hard questions.
It sounds like you like a little bit more chaos and the
Yeah.
startup process.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I do. I like to take something from nothing and create something out of it. And that's fun to me. Once it's solved, once the problems are solved, you'll see me anytime I'm focused in a department or an area of any of our businesses, I'm looking for the problems, and I work heavy in our financial side. So in our back office operations, I have a controller that works under me, but I'm the highest seat, I guess, in the financial department. And so, like, I'm always looking for problems. What do we need to fix? And so, even in a department that runs like a well-oiled machine, I'm always digging. And so, like, because I don't want to just sit there. I don't want to just sit here and match transactions or approve invoices. Like, that's boring to me. I want to dig through data and find a missing invoice, or whatever.
Cut back on expenses, or try to figure out how to make more
Yes.
money and stuff like that.
Yeah. Look into budgets and figure out, just where can we increase profitability or efficiency or process. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff I like to do. So
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, whenever they're getting started, they have this mantra of just gas pedal and go, build,
oh yeah.
and, like, it's top line only, right? And I've noticed this with friends. I've noticed this with myself. Is you neglect the expenses, and then
Oh
you
yeah.
look back, and once you've been at it for 5 years, and there's just a lot of fat that needs to be trimmed
Yep.
off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that just comes from not know, like, so I think a lot of people don't track it. They don't look at their expenses. That's for their accountant. That's for their CPA to figure out. It kills me to talk to business owners that say, I said, well, how much money did you make this year? Well, I'm waiting on the CPA to tell me what I owe in taxes. I'm like, what? How do you know? Like, the only grade in business we have is the line below the net profit line. All right. So the number below there, that's your grade. And so if you don't know that, how do you know how well your business is running? A business is built to make money. Now, I don't want this to be misconstrued, because I do not. So what drives me is not dollars. It's not dollars in the bank. Let me say that. What drives me is that team that can do anything. However, the grade in which that team performs is the number below the bottom line, which is the net profit line. How efficient. So the reason that most people don't know, or they have added, fat, to trim, and they have excessive expenses, is because they don't look at them on a daily basis, and they don't compare it to last week or last month or last year. They simply just say, well, this is a cost of doing business, and this is just what this bottle of ceramic coating costs. Okay, they don't say, well, if I buy X, if I use 4 liters of it this year, I should buy it in bulk because I know I'm going to spend it. And now I can cut my costs by 60 or 70%. And so that, I think a lot of that is just because they don't track it. They simply, and when we think about detailers, a lot of detailers are owner operators where they like to polish paint. They like to detail cars or boats. They don't really like to run the business. And so that's where some of that comes from.
Yeah. What expenses, other than, I know you mentioned the ceramic coating, like buying that in bulk, what else did you start noticing that needed to be cut?
Oh man, it was across the board. Labor's first and foremost. So like labor is can be the biggest variable. I used to treat it as a cost of service, and it fluctuated. And I soon realized that it shouldn't be done that way. You should be able to control labor cost to a certain degree. And so like putting a process in place that it should take a set amount of time to do a certain thing. Now you start to control one of the biggest variables in a service industry is the cost of labor. And so if we have a process that says you will do this, 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 and this, and it should take this much time, once we exceed that time, then we're like, okay, well, something's broken here, or we're incorrectly pricing this vehicle to give us the amount of time we need to work on it. But cost of labor is one of the things that I think that most people, and if you're an owner operator, chances are you're not even tracking. You're like, is there more money in the bank than when I started? Okay, then I'm making money. And it's not how many hours did I spend on this vehicle? How much did my product cost? How much marketing did I have to get this job per se? And how much did it cost me to get here? Or how much is my rent, power, water, my overhead? That kind of stuff. Chances are you're not even tracking labor. But labor was one that I dug deep on. We've gotten creative in the way that we handle payments and our payroll and stuff. But materials, products. I mean, it's another thing, and then tools and equipment, like your consumables such as your pads. Okay, lots of people they're paying so much money for these pads, and it's something that you're going through regular. Towels, you're going through regular. You're paying these exuberant amounts for towels, and I'm like, these are stuff that you're rolling through often. So we're looking the things that we're consuming on a daily and weekly basis. We're looking to buy those as cheap as we can get them. Tools, we're going to spend more on tools because that's not a consumable. It's a machine that we need to stay running all the time. And so we want to spend our money on tools and save our money on consumables.
How did you find ways to save money on like things like towels or pads?
Yeah, great question. Go into trade shows, events, Mobile Tech, SEMA, Southern Details Conference that's closed now. That used to be up. I mean, you got to go talk to suppliers, and a lot of them don't want to sell to detailers on a distributor level, but you got to work deals and angles, and it's like if I know I'm using X amount of product, and a lot of them have minimums and stuff like that, but the reality is if you can team up with a couple of detailers in your area, or if you start selling it, this is what kind of us until we started selling the product. And so now we can, if they got a whatever $15,000 a year minimum to buy, well, if I'm selling the product, I'm going through it anyway. And now my shop gets the benefits of those savings. So yeah, so setting up wholesale accounts and distributor accounts to save money, it's the first place I started. I was buying ceramic coatings in bulk, major bulk, and towels. I was buying towels by the container. And so we had so many towels. Excuse me.
So
Okay.
when did you start IGL Coatings?
So we didn't start it. I bought it. I bought it as an existing company in April from Joel Lapalm and Jeff. And Mike and I partnered up on it, and that was so those were very good friends of mine. I traveled uh, alongside of those guys with Detail Bookie. We always set up our booth beside IGL. We were very good friends, and they would always ask me to come speak at their trainings. I would go up there and do a little business seminars and stuff. And Joel LaPalm is a very good friend of mine. Him and I would do a lot of shows. We'd do a lot of presentations together. He always asked me to come speak at his events and stuff. And so we were at Mobile Tech in January, and you could tell he's just kind of a little off, and he looked tired, and lo and behold, a month later, he calls me. He's like, "Hey, Dustin, I think you and Mike should buy IGL." And I'm like, "Oh, really? I didn't know it was for sale." And he's like, "Well, it's not unless you want to buy it." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Well, let me call Mike." No, he said, "I'll call Mike." I'm like, "Nah, let me call Mike. Mike's my best friend." And he was their sales rep, acting in more of a general management role. He was very they leaned on him heavy in the decision making process. Joel and Jeff are Canadians, and so that's a U.S. business ran by Canadians. There's a slight disconnect in like how they operated within their team, and so and they would say this too. I'm not, this is public knowledge. And so Mike was there kind of uncovering some of the things that were happening. He's like, "Hey guys, we need to do this." And I think they were just kind of tired and didn't want to really dig in deep again on that kind of stuff. And so the opportunity presented itself, and Mike and I, we had joked about it for years while we were on long runs and stuff. We would be like, he would be kind of complaining about the way things were going at times, just typical like I'm job site complaining, and it's like, we should just buy the company. And it was always a joke. Like, they never thought in a million years we'd own IGL. Like, never thought. Like, it was literally a joke. And that opportunity came up, and it did not happen easily. I mean, that was a very big deal, very large acquisition. Took a lot of negotiation, took a lot of both parties really wanting to see it through to make it happen.
So did you buy that primarily? I mean, obviously there's probably a lot of reasons involved, but was part of your thinking like you can save money on material cost?
It's more of a byproduct. Because I was already getting products, so I wasn't buying. Everybody knows I'll be transparent. I wasn't buying my product from IGL, even though my relationship was so good. I was buying from another large ceramic coating company in which I was their largest installer, and so I was getting it very inexpensive. Okay, I was grandfathered into some pricing from years prior, and they were very nice to not raise my prices. And Joel and Jeff really couldn't compete on that level with pricing, not to sell to me. Now, when obviously a byproduct, once we bought the company, now EZN does, and Mike's shop, Mike owns a shop too. We both take the advantage of paying cost for product. But it was more of a byproduct than any piece of the decision making factor of buying it of the company. I think if I were in any other circumstance, then yes, it would have been a contributing factor. But I was already buying at about the same price.
So since taking that over, what have you guys seen needs change? What have you guys been doing
That's a
since
great
acquiring?
question. Yeah, man. All right. So, first of all, imagine jumping in a jet, flying, whatever, 1,000 miles an hour, and you grabbing a hold of the stick and just try not to wreck the plane. Like, that's what buying that company is like. It's full steam ahead. I mean, it's going 1,000 miles an hour, and you just don't touch anything because you don't want to mess nothing up. Okay, and then you slowly adjust the needle, or maybe adjust the course a little bit. So one of the first things that we did, so we knew that we had to, so we knew how to do two things. We knew how to increase sales a little bit. We knew how to decrease costs a little bit to make the deal work. So we went into it. We knew that we had a little work to do in that manner. So one of the first areas that we knew that we could do was move the warehouse. They were paying a 3PL warehouse center to pick, pack, and ship their products. And so it's a very expensive way to ship products because they were Canadian. Well, I had a warehouse here that we could move the products here, and I could ship it out with the current team, with the current staff. I think we had to hire one person. And then my dad ended up going and running the warehouse, which was nice for us. And so moving the products here, that helped us tremendously here to Mobile from Detroit, shipping that. So that was one of the first things we did. Another thing we did was we built an ambassador team. We built a team of, so we got together a group so IGL has 7,000 installers in the United States. So it's a big team, a lot of people. Well, we called on about the top 30 of those installers that had been there the longest, and we had a meeting. And first question I asked them was, or Mike and I asked them was, what made them stick with IGL? When you chose IGL, what made you be such a committed, loyal user of IGL? And the common denominator, I'd probably say 28 of those 30 was because it's family. It feels like family. And so we knew right away we couldn't lose that. We had to keep that same connection with our customer base. And then we knew right away that Mike and I, there's no way with 7,000 installers we could communicate effectively to all of our installers. So we built a team of 15 ambassadors that would help us communicate to our installers on a regular basis. And that's what we have done. That was one of our biggest changes and improvements so far. We've ramped up the training schedule. And so something that we're heavily focused on now is trainings. We host at least once a month, and we travel. So IGL had a training facility in Lexington, Kentucky. They had closed that down prior to us buying. And then so we took trainings out on the road. And now we travel the U.S. And do trainings all over.
Okay. Hopping back a little bit to your detailing business, I know you said that family was the thing that separated you with IGL. What do you think it is that separates you guys at EZN?
Great question. Professionalism. So when we think about detailing, typically, you don't typically think of a professional operation. You think of generally owner operator, partnership, few people handling your job. I'm not going to say people aren't professional. I don't mean it that way. But when I think about like a professional company, one that, we were cutting edge on things like CRM, customer communication, and pricing modules that are pricing models that made sense, and it wasn't pulling from the cuff. And so that's one of the things that separated us to begin with, was we said everything will be done like this. It's a process, and we're going to do it like this. But I'm going to tell you here recently, and I have a presentation that I'm releasing at Mobile Tech, and so, well, first, let me tell you this. So I go around the U.S. Giving a presentation called the $1 Million Detail Shop, and it was the process of which I built that shop under a carport all the way up to what it is now. And I did that off of professionalism and systems in place and the way to handle things and all that. You got to know your numbers, and it was a very number-centric company. Okay, the problem was when, and I'll tell you that the presentation that I'm going to give now is what the $1 Million Detail Shop got wrong. And the problem with a number-centric company is that when economies shift and they turn down a little bit, and people have to make a decision on where they're going to spend their last dollar, if you didn't build a connection with that customer, you're the first person on the chopping block. So when I think about a number-centric company, it's like, how many jobs did we do? What's our average ticket? What's how much time did we spend on this job? Nowhere did I say, what is the customer's name? What is the customer's problem that we're solving? That was never a conversation. It was always, how many numbers did we do? How much dollars did we do? How much time did we spend? How much product did we use? Like, that was the conversation, number-centric. So when the economy started to shift right after COVID, and all the COVID money was gone, well, then it's a little bit harder to grab those details. Really, it started showing up about 12 to 14 months ago. And so now we shifted focus into a people-centric company, where all we care about in this shop is, what's that customer's name and what's their pain? Why are they, who is it, and why are they here? And are we solving that problem? And that's how we've shifted. So when you ask me, like, what makes us different, what used to make us different before is different than what makes us different now. And I think that, I think that the word scale in business in this day and age was like, everybody was like, is it scalable? Can you do this over and over? Can you reproduce this? Can you make it bigger? And I think that the word scale will be the death of small business, because you take out the human factor. Everything's like a sales funnel, right? A sales funnel is real pretty, and it's got numbers. And you say, well, I just put more in on top and I get more out the bottom. But you take out the human factor. And the problem is sometimes it's hard to get more on the top to shake out the bottom. And then there's a disconnect in the middle that you got to work on. So having people centric, where you're really focused on, kind of like IGL, where it's family, but it's less than family. It's more like connection. And my customer comes here with a problem. Do I know him or her? And do I know what the problem is? And then do I solve that problem? So that's what makes us different.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's obviously probably a tough thing to balance with still being like efficient, and because the
Yeah.
numbers still, of course, play a role in everything.
Yeah, they do. And so we introduced KPIs a long time ago to each of our departments. And so our detail shop's no different. It has KPIs that we report on daily. So we still talk about numbers. We still talk, like, because that's the measuring stick, right? How many dollars did we produce today? What is our shop rate per hour today or yesterday? What is our QC ranking? Those things matter because that's the measuring stick. But things that also matter is how many connections did we make and how many problems did we solve. And if we can use that, as where so the brain is kind of connected to the numbers and the heart's kind of connected to the people.
Hmm. I was talking with a friend of mine and another detailer about an hour and a half away from here yesterday. I know he's listening to this, so shout out to
Yeah.
Jacob. But we were talking about a client of his that had
Mm-hmm.
stopped by his shop, like would spend 10, 15 minutes talking to him for like 2 years, never would book anything, never purchase anything, was just like asking
Yeah.
questions, you know? And
Yeah.
then Jacob said finally this year, in the last few months, he's booked like $3,500 worth of ceramic coatings, both him and his
Yep.
wife's car. And he's like, it's just finally starting to pay off.
It's the long game, right? Well, it goes to show you, like typically speaking, like an accountant would cringe when you think about return on investment there. Like, how much time are you spending? I just drew a blank. There was a thing that I had said, and it's like, you can't, how much time can you spend with one person before it becomes, a cost rather than a profit. But you can't really weigh it like that. You can't measure it like that. And because, like, you just don't know what it takes to get a job in the door, and you got to be willing to do whatever it takes. And yeah, I mean, it's perfect to think that he sat there and spent that much time with a customer, and it finally pays off.
Yep. And if you do a good job for that client, how many people that they'll tell friends and family. And I
Yeah.
mean, for ceramic coatings and detailing, we have tons of referrals, and
You
people
live off
say,
referrals.
exactly. Yeah. What do you think? One of my questions I had for you was how you guys get your business, and like, what's
Mm-hmm.
your main form of lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you kind of answered it by what you just said, which is just word of mouth and referrals doing a good job. But I mean, it's a bit of a cliche answer, right? But I mean, sometimes it is that simple. But can you elaborate at all?
Yeah, it's more than that. It's more than that. We couldn't consume the amount of work that we need to consume to hit our goals based on just referrals and kind of customer relationships. So we do have ads, and we do have outreach. So we use Google ads, we use Facebook ads. We're heavy Facebook. I built this business on the backbone of Facebook, and here's why: if you get their attention, you got their money. Okay, so it's an attention game, and so you got to grab that. And so we use Facebook ads heavily, and we use our organic content heavily, to bring attention into the business. And then we lead them to a website where they can learn more about the service, and then they lead them to a booking site where they can either book or they can call in and get more information. So heavy outreach. Something also that we've started back doing, we did it for years, was boat shows and car shows. We had a heavy presence at boat shows for years, and we stopped doing it. And we stopped doing it because if you measure the time and the money spent at a boat show versus the income, it's you're investing, you're losing money. Okay. But if you look at it long term, where you're building those relationships, you're out there shaking hands. People want to see people in the area doing things and supporting and being a part of. And so when they see a detailer at an event like a boat show, they're like, wow, okay, this guy's out here doing stuff, you know. And so when they think about spending money with you, they're more inclined, you know, to pick you versus someone else. But yeah, so our how we grab business is very much Google ads, heavy SEO on our website, and then heavy Facebook presence. We've got some TikTok action going. We've got a little bit of Instagram presence, not much. But we've done things. I mean, we leaned heavy on video content. I'm gonna tell you one thing. Here's something it's probably a freebie for most detailers, is we don't sell shiny cars. And generally speaking, most people that are posting a shiny car, whether it's a before or after or just the after or whatever. And the car's beautiful and it looks good. The problem is you're not selling that car. You're selling a service that made that car shiny. And if the service is what you're selling, then you should be showing the service being performed. And so to have yourself on camera or your team on camera, polishing that car, cleaning that car, detailing that car, showing the service, it's going to subliminally tell the customer, okay, they are solving the problem. Not just problem and then the end solution. It's they are my solution. They're the hero in my story, you know. And so if I in my marketing am showing my detailers polishing and cleaning and detailing and vacuuming, whatever it is they're doing, I'm telling my customer base, we sell this service. We sell the solution to your problem. Buy this solution. And so another thing is, if you think about the difference in Google and Facebook, and Facebook, people are not there to solve their problem. People are there to socialize. They're there typically sitting on the toilet, scrolling through Facebook, wasting time. Okay, so my marketing on Facebook is to grab attention solely. It's not this informative like style. It's attention grabbing. Let me grab their attention. Let me show them what I'm doing. In Google, they're there to solve a problem. If someone searches ceramic coating near me or paint correction near me, they have a problem they're trying to solve. That should be informative. That should be direct. That should be, we got you covered. And so if you can transition that a little bit, I think it helps. And, you know, it's an art form. Um, um, and then to kind of capitalize on that or just speak to that, it's also cheaper to keep them. And so your retention efforts on the backside of a completed job should be as heavy as the front side to get jobs in the door. So spending time nurturing the customer after they spend their money with you is more important than spending time on ads to get new customers.
Yeah, one of my clients owns a marketing company, and he's harping on that to me all the time. He calls it past clients. And he's like, everyone neglects the past clients.
They do. If it costs you $10 to get a customer in the store, so it's called $10 acquisition cost. I ran $100 worth of ads. I got 10 customers. I have a $10 cost associated with that customer. If that customer leaves and they come back, now my acquisition cost gets cut in half. It's $5. If that customer leaves and comes back, it's cut in half, $2.50. Every time that customer comes back off of the initial acquisition cost, I cut it in half down to a minuscule amount of money. So it's much cheaper to communicate to customers through text, through phone call, through email, through maybe even like a retargeting efforts, than it is to go out and convince somebody that's never met you before, never done business with you before, that's got to pick through 10, 20 other companies to pick you. So if you've already done business with this person, they've had a pleasant experience, they have another problem, you need to be top of mind, because it's much cheaper to get them in the door than it is to go through 1,000 others to pick 10 customers.
Yeah, I think when we introduced ceramic coatings, when we really started to take it seriously, I would say probably 60 to 80% of our clients are returning clients that were a detail client
Oh,
before.
nice. Yeah, no, that's what you want. I mean, so we have a retention metric that measures how often do customers come back within 30 days and get another job done, and ours is like 81%. This morning, our Monday meeting, it was 81%. So 8 out of 10 customers are coming back within 30 days, and that's how often we want them back. We want to know that those customers are coming back. Chances are that customer has a sister, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, or something that's got another job for referral. But they also got maintenance. If you're not, focusing on maintenance after the coating, then think about how hard it is to go out and just fill the schedule full of coatings. There's a whole maintenance, side of the business that you're missing if you're not chasing that. And a lot of people are giving up on that. A lot of people don't want it. Because it's not as profitable as the coating side. But again, where do you think that customer, if he's got to go find someone, he or she's got to go find someone to do their maintenance washes, and that new detailer now offers coatings. Next time he gets a new car, or next time the wife or husband gets needs a car coated, they're going to use that company.
How much are you charging for maintenance washes?
So if you have a ceramic coating and you come back within 30 days of each detail, it's 50% off. And an average maintenance detail is like 110 or 120 bucks. So 50, 60 bucks. Wash it, wipe the tires down, clean the glass, light vacuum, send it on its way. And it's not very profitable. Our shop needs to generate about $75 an hour. And typically it takes us about an hour, and we are in the 55 to 60 range. It's one of our least profitable things, but we're solving problems for a customer. And plus, when you say 50% off, you're incentivizing them to come back. Repetitive business or recurring business. And there's power in recurring business as well.
Oh yeah, like when it comes to like selling your business, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's more valuable. Recurring business has a really nice multiplier because it takes the owner out of it. Like if this business is built on recurring business, then how much impact do I, as the owner, have to get that business in the door? So if I say I have 100 repeat customers, they get it done weekly or monthly. As long as the new owner doesn't mess that up, the new owner can essentially take over the business and run it. So it's more valuable. And if I come in and this is all coatings and it's hard sell, and I have to connect with every customer that comes in the door and nurture this lead and nurture this sell, well, a new owner is going to be like, this is very connected to you. And as soon as you walk out the door, this business declines.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many cars you've coated, and if you know that number, I'd love to know what that is. But I've talked to shops that have coated 2,000 cars, and I mean that $50 a week or a month. I mean that's
Yeah.
$100,000 a month in
Yeah.
reoccurring revenue.
Yeah. Oh man, the number of cars we've coated, I have no idea. I couldn't even begin to tell you. If I had to guess, we coat 4 or 5 a week. Maybe 3 or 4 thousand cars. We didn't heavy focus on maintenance washes until a couple years ago. We were as guilty as others. Like it's just not profitable. We don't want to do it. But over the last few years, we've really worked hard to build that maintenance program up, and we probably have probably right at about 100 cars now on a regular basis seeing here. Not all monthly, but we have recurring. So they're all built out on a schedule. And so some of them happen every week, some of them happen bi-weekly or monthly, and then so forth, so on.
Yeah, and not everyone's going to want that, or some people are going to be every other month.
Yes, exactly. And you just cater to that customer's needs. And so like if a customer's coming in every 60 days, then we don't do the full 50% off. We'll do like a 25% off.
Okay. Going back to the Facebook ads, I know you had said that the ads that do the best aren't necessarily as informative, but they seem to be a little bit more attention grabbing, entertaining, perhaps. What have you guys found to be the most effective there?
Short video. Video guys are our team in the shop. Anything captivating, anything that's, shows the guys, the team. I say guys, we have women detailers too. It's just habit to say guys. The team out in the shop, working, that seems to be one of the biggest things. It's the off factor. It's like, oh, that's how they do that. Okay. Yeah, so that tends to work for us. We lean on humor a little bit too. We like to roll our outtakes, our mess ups. We think, that's funny. We ran a series called Shop Talk for years where I was the host of it. And it started in the shop, and we would talk about things that are going on, certain ways to solve problems. Then we actually grew out of our shop and started doing other shop talks all around the community and cities, surrounding cities. And then we did a series called DIY. And that was a really good. I still think it probably could have been bigger than we allowed it to get, just because we, at the time that we were shooting it, we were limited resources. Chris was our videographer, and he still is, but it was just him, and he was shooting for a lot of companies, for a lot of companies that we own, and so we didn't have the bandwidth there. But DIY was where we were taking little short. I think it was, what was it, Chris? Less than 2 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. And we were showing customers how to fix their own problems. Okay. And essentially we would state like a problem, and we would make it funny. And then we'd go down to O'Reilly's and buy something over the counter and fix their problem. And what we were doing was we were grabbing their attention and show them how to solve a problem, but we were positioning ourselves as the person, the team, or the company that knew how to solve their problem. So when it became bigger than what they could do, they would bring it here. And a lot of detailers are worried to death that they're going to teach their customers how to replace them. And if a customer wants to pay for detail, they're not going to do it themselves. They may want to self-help a little bit. They may want to, clean a window every now and then, but they're not going to start a detailing business just because you teach them how to clean a window. And so that was one of the more captivating ways to grab attention, was to help the community and help others solve their problems. But it positions you as I don't want to say know-it-all, but like
Authority figure.
Thank you. The authority figure. Yep.
Yeah. Like that's kind of like that branding. And I think going to those car meets and boat shows is probably similar.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yep. I mean, just being out there and shaking hands and meeting, customers. So we use it as a lead capture. We always give away a coating. So like at a boat show, we may give a $2,000 credit away to a coating. Put your name, number. You have to get an estimate. So that means to get an estimate in our system, you got a name, phone number, email, and what vehicle do you have. Most of them don't even want a detail. They just want the $2,000, credit. Like they're not shopping for detail. The good thing is, you build out $150,000 worth of estimates over a weekend to chase down. Well, if I convert 10% of them, it's 15 grand. Okay. If I convert, so it's like the long game of a boat show or a car show. And I highly recommend doing that. You're building leads in your system. All right. Some of them, they have no intentions of buying a detail whatsoever, but that's okay. That's just normal business. You got to work through that. But there's a large portion that you can market to and that you can shake some business out of it. What you're not going to, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just curious. So are you doing, are you doing that giveaway? Like how are you driving people to that form to fill out to enter the giveaway? Is that people at the show and then
people at the show. Yeah, so walking by, we'll have a big thing. We'll have a rollout thing that says free, like $2,000 giveaway, ceramic coating. Usually we have, like at a boat show, we'll have a boat that's pulled up, that's coated. We'll pour water over the side of it, or we have a display of a section of a boat that we pump water down, and half of it's coated and half of it's oxidized. If it's a car show, we do the same thing with a car hood. We'll polish half of it and coat half of it and pour water. So it's attention grabbing. It's, okay, well, look, we're giving away a $2,000 credit at the end of the show. All you do is get an estimate on your vehicle. What kind of car do you have? Oh, I got a 2,500. Okay, cool. What's your name, phone number, email? All right, so in order to do that, here it is. I'll send it to you. Now they get a professional quote from us. And it's sight unseen. It's an estimate. So, hey, Chris, we're running low up there. It's a sight unseen estimate. So like the first thing is, well, how do I know? I can't give a price until I see it. This is what kills me with detailers. You may do it, and so I don't mean anything by this, but is I must see your vehicle before I can give you a price. There's no more friction in the buying process than if I say, before I can tell you how much I'm going to charge you, I got to see it. There's only a couple variables in pricing a detail, and one is size and one is condition. Okay. And then others expectation, but expectation can be determined along the way, but size is determined by the size of the vehicle. What kind of vehicle is it? Okay. Well, now we've eliminated 50% of the variable. Tell me what size the vehicle is. Okay. The next thing is, what's the condition? And if we know the length of time and when the last detail was, generally speaking, we can kind of gauge the condition. So if we give a general assumption and we say, okay, everything's middle of the road, and we're going to give you a price based on middle of the road. Now, if it comes in and it's excessive dirty, or it's an excessively scratched vehicle, or it is excessively muddy, or excessive pet hair, those are variables that we price once we see them. And it's baked into our pricing model as an estimate only. So, like, we have to see it to do that. And those are the few that we have to do. But that service, we can give you a price as this is if it's average use case. This is what we're going to charge you. If we get here and it's got excessive pet hair, if the dog's been living in the back seat for 2 years, we got to charge you more. If it's covered in mud, we got to charge you more. But 90% of the business that comes in the door can be ran through our pricing model and given a price, so a customer doesn't have to go like, well, I got to bring it up there for them to see it.
Sure. Do you guys have like a range that like, okay, three row SUV, GMC Yukon, Cadillac Escalade, um, whatever. And it's like, okay, it's roughly going to be starting at 350, 300, 250, whatever. And then it's going to go up possibly $100 depending on condition. And they're kind of shooting you at like, maybe it's like a middle condition. So is that kind of how you guys do that?
No. So say we say everything as our package is based on average use case scenario. So like your Cadillac Escalade, just say a standard in and out is $450. It's 450. If it comes in with this excessive mud, if it comes in with this excessive pet hair, it's priced as that. And if it comes in extra clean, you're paying the 450 too. Like we're not coming down, but we go up in its own certain areas. So it's not like we're going up, on the whole thing. It's like we're going to go up because you got pet hair in here, and it's going to take us an extra 3 hours, and we're going to charge you $225 to get the pet hair out of here. So $75 an hour times three. And it's a line item on our invoice for the additional charge. It's
Hmm.
agreed on before we start it. That's done at the check-in process.
Gotcha. Okay. So before they even leave, they would know.
Before they leave. Now there are certain, and by the way, this is, of course, this is like your 90 percentile. Like
Sure.
everything has an exception. Um, but if once it comes to, if it gets through check-in and they get back here and it's like, holy shit, we got it under the lights and the paint's razor thin, or we got it under the lights and this thing is just trash, you didn't see it. Well, then we may have to call the customers, and then sometimes we eat it. If we miss it at check-in and it's like, hey guys, we're just going to take a loss on this, or not a loss, but we're going to have to spend a little more time, probably not going to get compensated for it. Maybe it's Miss Smith and she's on fixed income and she could only spend $250, but she wants to get her interior done. And we just work with it. It's like we're like any other business. You solve those problems as they come.
Yeah. Well, I know we've come up on an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time because I know you got another meeting. So I'll let you go. I got one last question for you, though. I've seen a lot of your videos on your social media where you get involved with your team, like meetings and stuff like that. I see you try to be pretty encouraging. What other advice do you have as far as running a team goes, keeping people efficient and motivated?
Yeah. So first thing I'm going to tell you is people are going to mess up, and let them, because you messed up. Okay. And so the biggest fear that detailers have when they get ready to hire is like, well, how do I know they're not going to mess something up? Well, the truth is they are. They are going to mess something up. You need to instill enough confidence in them that, first of all, you're not going to chew their ass, and you're going to help them. You're going to support them. You're going to fix it, and you're going to let them learn from it. And then you expect them not to do it again, just like you learned. And so when you go to hire, give people a little grace in that. No, people are going to mess things up just like you do every day. And you're there to fix it. You're there to help them. They're there to pat them on the back, say, hey, it's all right. Let's get better. What do we learn from this? How do we not let this happen again? Cool. It's expensive, yeah. But that's the cost of doing business, and it's the cost of growth. And then also cast a vision. You want people to understand where you're going. No one wants to come into a business and act like a robot. Those days are over. The assembly line, the assembly line mindset is great, but you take the human factor out of people, and people want to have a vision, and they want to know where they're going, and they want to know that they have some control over that. Okay, and so you cast that vision. You say, you determine where we go from here. Now, here's the direction. This is what we're going to do, but I want you're going to help me determine how we're going to get there and how fast we're going to get there. Yeah, the rate of innovation is the determining factor of success, and the rate in which you can innovate. Okay, and innovation, uh, it's determined by your team. The rate that you can be creative and build and fix and do and be better. The faster you can do that, the better the further the business goes. So
Great. Well, thank you for sharing, Dustin, and taking the time to chat with me today. So I know I learned a
mm-hmm.
lot. So I hope everyone else out there did too.
Yeah, man, happy to be on. I appreciate the invite, and happy to come back anytime you want, man. This is cool.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. So thanks again, and thanks everyone for listening.
All right, sounds